Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to my channel where we share our love of all things paranormal and mysterious. I'm your host, and today we are going to be talking about one of the most famous hauntings in all of England. We're going to talk about the Enfield Poltergeist. This case absolutely fascinated me when I first heard about it. It's a very well-known case. A lot of people have heard about it even if they aren't into paranormal stuff. But this case is just so bizarre and creepy, and I wanted to make a video about it because why not? So, this haunting took place in London in the 1970s. And this is what made it kind of different from other hauntings that had taken place before. Before this time period, poltergeists were usually associated with something like an old house, or maybe an old hotel. But this particular haunting happened in a council estate, so it was considered a working-class neighborhood. And at the time, there weren't a lot of other cases like it that had happened in a place like this. There were 4 people who lived at the house where the haunting took place. There was a single mother named Peggy Hodgson, her son called Mark, who was 13 years old, her daughter Janet, who was 15 years old, and her other daughter Christine, who was 20 years old. They lived at number 28, and that was on Green Street in Enfield, and this was in North London. Now the story goes that strange things began to happen in the home after Janet moved back in with her mother. She had been staying out quite a bit, staying with friends and boyfriends, and she would come home late. And apparently she would walk past her front door without even realizing it, because she was so tired. So she started spending more time at home. And this was in October of 1977. And this is when the activity began. First, objects started moving around by themselves. Doors were opening and closing, and then one day a bed was found, moved to the middle of the room, although it was a heavy bed. Then furniture started moving by itself, making regular occurrences. Sometimes the furniture would move, but other times it would also make regular shaking noises. The family dog would also growl and then run away. Then strange things started happening with Janet. One night, the family was woken up by what sounded like screams in the middle of the night. It sounded like Janet screaming and making these gurgling sounds, and they went into her room and found that she was asleep. But then soon after, objects started flying through the air and hitting her, like apples and oranges. And then sometimes when she would go to sleep, objects would move around her bed. Sometimes it seemed like the bed was vibrating, and they even found scratches on her body. Then things started escalating. On one occasion, Mark was using a phone in the kitchen when suddenly he was hit over the head with a metal candlestick. Then another time, he was standing next to his sister when a full-length mirror fell off the wall and almost hit him. It was a large mirror, and it could have definitely killed him. But it didn't hit him. Instead, it hit Janet, and it knocked her down. She survived. She was not killed. Then there were some occasions when things were moving around the house, and witnesses outside of the family saw it. So it wasn't just them. Other people saw things moving around and saw things happening, and this really became an overnight sensation in the town. Everybody was talking about it. After a while, the press got involved, and one of the reporters that wrote about it actually had their camera stolen. So they were trying to take pictures of the ghost, and the ghost stole their camera. Then paranormal investigators got involved. Guy Playfair, who was part of the Society for Psychical Research, he investigated the case, and he actually said that he experienced physical contact with the entity himself. He felt an arm being pushed against his shoulder. Then, of course, there was the famous ghost hunter Harry Price, who also investigated the case. And he had some interesting theories about it. At first, he believed that Janet was faking it. He believed that she was responsible for moving the objects and making it look like they were being moved by a ghost. But later on, he changed his mind, and he said that he believed that there was something else at work here. Another investigator who was involved was a woman by the name of Anna Rake, and she was the one who was taking the photographs. And she was the one who captured the photo that shows the table moving on its own. In the photo, you can see the table moving, but you can also see a cord in the photo, and that cord looks like it's attached to the table and it's making it move. And there's even a hand that can be seen in the photo that looks like it's controlling the cord. And there's another photo that she took that shows a handprint on the wall. But there was more. There was even an audio recording that was captured at the house. And in the recording, you can hear furniture moving and making these loud noises. And in the background, you can hear this disembodied voice saying, "Go away." Now, you might be wondering what happened to the family. Well, eventually, they were evicted from the home. After 3 years, the council decided that they needed to get rid of them. And they said that it was because of all the media attention that was being brought to the town. But some people believe that they were evicted for another reason. They were evicted because the council thought that the mother and her daughters were faking the hauntings. And they were doing it for attention. Now, I don't know what to believe. Do I think that they faked it? I honestly don't know. I do think that maybe there was some of it that was faked, but I think that there was probably some of it that wasn't faked. And that's usually how I feel about poltergeist cases. I think that they usually start off as psychological, but then something else gets involved. And there are some interesting theories about what it could have been in this case. Some people say that it could have been demons. Other people say that maybe it was interdimensional beings. Some people even say that maybe it was the ghosts of children. Now, keep in mind, this is just speculation. Nobody knows what it was for sure. I personally think that it could have been something demonic. If you read about this case, you will find a lot of people saying that it was demonic. And I don't know. I just feel like there was something dark surrounding this case. I feel like it was sinister. Now, I don't want to speculate too much on it, but I think that there was some kind of demon involved because, you have this family. And in order to fake something like this, especially back in the 1970s, you would need some serious planning. You would need some very convincing special effects. Like you couldn't just rig up some fishing line and call it a day because people were getting hurt. Furniture was breaking, things were flying through the air and hitting people. So it would take some very convincing special effects and a lot of planning. And it would also take a lot of mental health, like somebody who's faking these things, putting themselves in danger. Like imagine if one of those pieces of furniture hit them in the head. That could kill somebody. So it would take a very mentally unstable person to plan something like that and carry it out. And I think that's why people believe that maybe there was something else at work here, because it just seemed like it was too much. It seemed like it was too dangerous. This case still remains a mystery. We don't know what caused it. We don't know what led to it. And it's a shame, because I feel like if this had happened in an old house, we might know what happened. But because it happened in a council estate, there wasn't really any history attached to it. We don't know anything about the history of that home. So it's hard to say whether or not someone died there, whether or not something bad happened there. So it's really hard to say what could have caused it. So I'd like to ask you, what do you think caused the Enfield Poltergeist haunting? Do you think that it was interdimensional beings? Do you think that it was a demon? Do you think that maybe it was ghosts? Or do you think that it was totally faked? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And while you're down there, I'd like to ask you to please remember to leave a like. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, I'd also like to ask you to subscribe because I put out new videos every single week. I would love to have you here. Thank you again for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Until next time, remember, be nice to each other.